We're welcome to week 3, and we're going to start on our people portion of our pastel studies. And what I have here today is a picture of Mona Lisa. I've always wanted to actually attempt that. You can see there's a little bit of landscape in the background, so that goes with our last few weeks of study. You can choose anybody famous that you'd like, and or not famous, could be somebody else. All right, so let's get started. How do we do portrait? So portrait is actually a very symmetrical exercise. So I'm going to start out with drawing an oval shape for her face. There's my oval, you can see that. And I'm using a charcoal pencil just for the sake of the fact that it's a little bit darker to you, but you could just be doing it with your graphite pencil. Now her face is slightly turned, so I'm gonna make a little curve here. If your face is straight on like this lady here, then you would be putting a cross or an X right through her face. But I'm going to make a little bit of a slight curve, and then her eyes, believe it or not, they're halfway on the oval, and her mouth is going to be halfway between the eye line and the chin line, and her nose is going to be just past halfway between the eye line and the mouth line. So you need to set up your construction lines. It's that simple. Ears, even though I can't see the ears on Mona, would be just in line with the eyes. And hair, that's where all this happens, where all the brain matter and your hair is up here. So when you were in kindergarten, you would put the eyes way up here, but now you know not to do that. Okay, so symmetry. So I'm gonna have two oval shapes here. And you know what, if your placement of eyes seems off, or you feel like it doesn't look like Leonardo da Vinci's, that's fine, right? You are your own artist, and so it's going to be just fine if yours looks different. In fact, I think it's kind of fun when you see what you'll create. Maybe your colors will be different. Okay, so we know that the nose is going to be on this line. It's a bone, right? It's not an opening except at the nostrils. The mouth is going to be on this line here that was halfway between the eyes and the chin. So if I were to draw a imaginary line, these are all imaginary lines, like she was crying, this is going to be the corner of the mouth. Can you believe how that just makes it so simple? Also, lips look like jelly beans. So I'm going to have two small jelly beans above the line and two larger jelly beans below the line. Now, obviously, we don't have jelly beans for a mouth, but I find that this is a good way to make sure that I give someone some voluptuous lips. All right, now the nose is like a triangle that comes from the brow. So there's a brow right above the eye, and you can just take that brow line and go down and make a triangle. All right. So really you're going to be shading and shadowing on top of something very light, because this part of the nose is closest to you and the sides recede. All right, now let's do the hairline. So in this case, she has a high forehead. Her hairline is definitely receding even though she's very young. And we are going to now shape her face. So I can tell that her hair comes close to her eye, so that way I'm going to pull it down. Then I can start to shape her chin. She's got kind of more of a pointy chin. And the hairline goes up the other side like that. And it's almost like she's got a veil, kind of hard. I think there is a veil that's there. All right, neck. Necks actually line up with your eyes as well. So if I were to continue that teardrop line, I'd have a neck. Now remember, she's turned a little bit to the side, so you're going to have a little bit more fatness of the neck here. And then is her chest. You can always adjust it with pastels. That's what's nice about it. Alright, you do not have to do the full body of something right now. If you just want to focus on the head and then fade out the rest, that is fine. You don't have to use up your entire paper at this point. Because maybe you don't want to do hands at this point. Who wants to do hands at this point? Especially when you're just learning how to do faces. So if you do not feel like tackling the hand, then do not do that at this point, because hands are really not the most easiest thing to do. And I may not do that. I might just fade all that out, since I really want you to focus on this facial portraits. Okay. And her hair is kind of coming down like this. Okay, and behind her, there's like a whole nother painting going on behind her. Probably another one of his famous paintings. So I'm just going to put the horizon line below halfway. Maybe that's just the edge of the painting, so, or that's, who knows what that is. But the horizon line that's in the painting, landscape painting, is like that behind her. Okay, so I think this is just a good start to our process. So let's get started. So if you recall, in our last session, we work from the background forward. We want to make sure that we get enough pastel onto the paper. I'm so excited about doing this project with you all today. It's a big jumping off from landscape to portrait. People don't start with portraits when they learn to draw. They might do some life drawing classes. And I'm going to line up some colors that I see in this background. It's kind of a dark background. I wanted to give it more warmth, that's why I chose an orange paper. If you wanted to make this more cool, you could have chosen a blue paper. So I'm going to have some greens in there, some yellow, maybe a little bit of brown, peach. Okay, so there's kind of my overall. I want to look for what seems like the base to all of this, as if it was the primer coat. So I've actually got kind of an olive green, and I'm going to just rub that all behind her. A lot of Rembrandt's oil paintings, he just does them all umber, almost black backgrounds, and then the faces really pop out. Now, did he choose to do that because he didn't want to mess with all the background, or did he was working in candlelight because it's so cold? Okay, so I'm going to use my fingers. I'm just going to go ahead and add some other colors before I start blending everything. It's okay if I get onto her black hair. I've always wanted wanted to do Mona. I have not, the challenge with doing something that everyone's familiar with as your inspiration, they will always compare it to the original. So I'm going to do my best not to compare myself with the original and make it my own. You know, I have a couple of photographs I did myself of ladies with veils or headdresses because I'm very enamored with trying to tell a story in a photo. Like here's one I cut out of a magazine. So, or here's a gentleman, a photograph. I believe, is this no, this is an Edward Curtis. Yeah, so I love the texture in the headdress and the wrinkles on his face. So I like collecting things that tell stories. You could do George, right? But again, look how dark the background is. Gilbert Stuart, this is one of his paintings from the National Portrait Gallery in DC. And you can see like Rembrandt, it's very dark, but look how the face just totally pops up and you're able to enjoy the features of him in particular because it's not about the background. Okay, back to Mona and what all we're doing here. I can always add more to the background later, but I want to get it right up to her black hair. Okay, I'm going to look for a little bit of midnight blue. Just put in a few hills and okay, let's kind of put a little bit of water. Everything's kind of muted in the background because again, it's not about the background, it's really about her. But I find it interesting that Leonardo did depict one of his paintings in the background because it's really all about him and this lovely lady that he was in love with. This was not a famous painting, by the way, until it was stolen. Kind of happens with a lot of things, isn't it? It becomes famous when there's a story behind it. Because this was not one of his best paintings, according to him. I may not even spend a whole lot of time on the entire background. But just enough to give the idea. Like, I don't think I'm going to spend a lot of time in the video doing all the details. But I think you get the idea of filling in the paper no matter what. Yes, I've got my hands in some gloves because it's very messy. Really highlighting that horizon line in the painting. Creates a lot of depth, interest. So don't forget to do that. Alright, give it a little bit of contrast of the little white water next to her neck there. Maybe a little bit down here. Water in the painting, so to speak. And I can come back and add a lot more into this. Alright, so it's very dark down here. I think I'm going to just try to use a little bit of midnight blue and black and see what we get. Okay, so we're going to concentrate on the light parts of the face. So I'm going to take off one of my gloves here and we're going to work on the skin colors. So if you know anything about skin color, we actually have blues, reds in our skin, and blue, red, and yellow make the primary colors make the skin colors. So I'm going to find some blue and some yellow and some red. I'm looking for a red in my box. This is why it's good to keep yourself organized. And I'm so excited about this because you're going to get to see how those colors would actually create the skin that we need. So I'm going to put a little red up here. I'm just going to do it on the forehead first so that you can see. Little blue, little yellow, and of course when I add white, that's going to make it lighter. So I'm actually going to get a little bit cleaner glove on my hand to blend with, and it's going to turn brown, which is what I want. I'm just going to do it up here first so you get the feeling for it, and then when I add white, might need more yellow because she's got a little bit more yellow in her skin. Putting a little blue and red to the outside edges that are going to be more in those depths that are on her face. And then I'll add more white, like the second layer. So, even though I have more than one layer on her forehead, I think you're getting the idea of how I got to that point. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is do the same process throughout her skin. I don't think I'm going to work on the hands. Well, maybe I'll put a little down there for the hand skin area. Her face, yes, I know, we're covering up all those pencil lines that you so painstakingly put in there and did a good job with. You might have to use more of one color. Maybe you didn't get equal parts, or like I said, if the skin color of the person is slightly more red, like a Native American, or it's darker skin color, you wouldn't add as much white. I think you understand how I'm going. Maybe if they're Asian, they might have more sallow skin color. So this is looking a little green to me, so that means I have to add more red. Get it to the brown first, and then keep adding the white. It's picking up some of my charcoal pencil too, so that's meaning it's going to be darker off the bat till I get more white put in there. Now you might have a skin color already. You might even have a peach, yeah, or a more sallow color, you know? So you're welcome to use those if you want to kind of skip a few steps. But I did want to show you that faces are made, skin is made with all those colors. So see, it's really deep and dark underneath her neck, more blue. Didn't put any yellow, gotta get the yellow in there. Yes, I'm going outside the lines because that black's gonna cover up all of that. Yes, I'm gonna go right over her lips. But you guys, you would have known, you kind of know where her face is gonna be. You could even switch to your blender stick at this point if you needed to get into those lines, or your shaper. Right, so that you can remember where the eyes are and the edge of the nose. But that's why I always tell you not to spend a lot of time on detail. You could make this as realistic as you want. You could make it as fun. You could do just fun colors. Maybe you don't want to blend them all. Maybe you want it to be crazy. In the slides, I show you a couple of different fun ways to treat it. I'm just popping up the areas that I know the light's hitting. Her chin and the nose, which these areas stick out more. Maybe the top of her forehead. It's fun. My style is a little bit more harried like this. I'm not usually a realist. I don't usually smooth things out. So look at that. I'm just gonna rub all this. See, that's why I didn't spend a lot of time drawing the hand, because when I use the charcoal pencil and go back in and around all the fingers, that's when I'm going to be able to shape it better. But I've got to get the color on first. You can use a tissue or the chamois. You don't have to use a glove or the cots. She's got her little Renaissance outfit on here, so there's a little bit of deepness on her chest there. Do eyes last. I'm not focused on that right now. Aren't you glad you established where the forehead is? And that you didn't put the eyes too high up onto the page. Okay, so I think I've got some good skin in the game. Give her a little bit rosier cheeks. She looks evil right now, doesn't she? But she's gonna be pretty at the end. All right. Okay, now I'm going to actually start to take my charcoal. Oh no, I need to finish all this. I'm getting too excited about finishing this. So I'm gonna take some blue and black. Blue and black and browns and put in all the layers of her cloak, her clothes, her cape. I'm not really sure what in Renaissance this is. But I'm going to put it in. I know, nothing is one color. You need to practice that and know that there are several colors going on. It's perceived as black, but when this was painted, it's got all these other colors in there. So far away, it may look and be perceived as black, but you've got light shining on it, the folds in the actual cape. And this is really important for me to get all of these layers on before I do details. I just want to have this underlying color of pastel ready. It's kind of lighter here, like an olive. Just a little olive in here, in her folds. And then it switches down here, like she almost has, she has on a blouse underneath. It's got like 3 colors I see in there, so I'm just gonna go ahead and mix those in there. And anything left, I'm gonna go back and put the blue, some red, and the black. Very different when I put that color over the sleeve color versus the hand. Pink in there. Okay, so the only thing I have left that's on the paper is that actual veil part around her face. And so that I don't actually get it into her face, I'm going to take the charcoal pencil and really beef up Alright, that tells me I was a little off down there, so I get to add a little more down in here. And I was a little off up here, I need to add a little more there. And that's okay. Where you're fine-tuning everything. And now I'm going to add, turning it on its side, and some purple, and some blue, and some brown. I'm gonna smudge that in there first. And then I'll put the black back over the top. I could have put a little green in there too. I always wanted to have green hair. Not really. Because I can use my hard pastels to really shape it up. So, speaking of that, I'm going to use a little umber. And you can use your charcoal. Alright, where's my charcoal pencil? I think you get the idea. So I'm going to keep on working on her hair for a little bit longer. Alright, and then we're going to go back to the face. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start putting those facial features back in that we've lost from putting in our background. I think I've got a sharper pencil here. And so what I'm going to do is just gently put those ovals back in. Now I could be drawing with a graphite pencil. But I'm doing it with charcoal so you can see it. Okay, now usually your pupils, your iris, it's not a full circle inside of that original oval. So, and she's looking to the side, so her iris and pupil are to the right. And typically we have a pupil. She's got somewhat of a, looks like she's got brown eyes. So I'm going to give her some brown. Make it a little bit more reddy brown. I'm using some of the harder pastels so they don't smudge. I'll have to go back and add that little pupil. Okay, and then I'm going to use my shaper to just gently move it around. Okay, and then she's got the white of the eye. So I'm going to go ahead and put the white of the eye in before I put charcoal back in. Just got a little white lid. I don't want to scrub too hard. If you do scrub it away, you can always add it back in there. Alright. You want to go brighter than you think, because as you scrub it away, it gets mixed with everything else. So try to think brighter as you learn to color mix. Alright, now what I'm going to do is add that charcoal back in. Kind of the ring around her eye. And the pupil. And then I'm going to put her lid on. You'll be looking back and forth between your picture a lot. And that's good because you're learning to observe. It's a really good skill. Don't make it up in your head until you've had years of practice and you know where everything goes or how an eyeball should look. So just keep referring to your picture. Alright, now I can use my Q-tip or a makeup applicator, whatever you have handy. I can smudge that. But not too heavy. Remember, I've already got enough pastel on the paper, so this should just kind of glide and sit on the top. She's got kind of a little bit of bag. She's not that old. I think she's only in her early 30s. Okay, now she's got a little bit of shadowing above the brow, and look how I'm using green. Purple. To add that shadowing. I love purple as a shadow. And these are secondary colors, so they have all the primaries in them. Just shaping it. Let's see. Use a little bit harder purple. Hope you're having fun doing a person. Nobody knows exactly who you're doing, so don't get frustrated. Well, unless you're doing Mona. Everybody's going to know you're doing Mona. She's very recognizable because the whole world was looking for her. Not looking for her, the girl, but looking for the famous painting. So that's why she's very recognizable. I'm just going to put a slight piece there for under the eyes and smudge that out. Okay. And she's got some on the, right here on the bridge of her nose, some more shadowing. And there's a plane going over the top of my head. Sorry about that. Between my dog door and the plane. Okay, remember this is just a bone and that you can't really see the holes in her nostrils, but they are there. And we're only going to highlight in between the lips. So you're going to shadow the side of the nose, not on top of the nose. Don't worry, we're going to put some creaminess back into her. But before we do that, let's go ahead and add a little rosiness to her lips. Right in those jelly beans. We're going to darken it so that at least it has a little bit of underlying pinkiness to it. Okay. Here comes a little bit of darkness to it. Let's add a little bit more brightness to her face. Remember, this is where you want to spend most of your time, not on the background, because this is all about the portrait. In fact, if you don't do anything in the background, that's fine. Now, by me picking up a little bit of this black from her face, I can use that as I'm working around the nose without having applied anymore, because there's charcoal there, so I'm picking up some of the charcoal and redistributing it. Wonder if Leonardo made her more beautiful when he painted her. Everybody's pretty, right? I think we're our worst critics. Maybe she didn't think she was very pretty. And maybe he had to paint her to make her think that. I don't know. I can ask him someday, maybe. See, I've got some charcoal on my shaper, or you can use a Q-tip or a makeup applicator. And under the lips, you get this little shadow. From your bulbous lips, you create a shadow. I'm gonna have to add a little bit of purple and green to that, I think. She's shaping up. No pun intended. Let's give her a little pink in her lips. Her cheeks. She needs a little. Can't use my fingers anymore in this area because it's just too tight. So I'm having to switch to something else. Plus this is synthetic and it's helping move things around a little bit better. I think you get the gist, so I'm just going to keep on working on her face till I keep adding all those layers that I need. You can see I'm using multiple colors. Sometimes I just need to keep beefing up the chin, making it stand out where the light's hitting her face. So I encourage you to just keep on working on it. And I'll come back and show you the finishing touches. All right, we're continuing to work on the face. Get all the shades and shadows in there. Don't be afraid to use purples for shadows, like all of your secondary colors. And I'm going to and then it gets really dark right here, right under the chin. So at this point I can add a little black to it. And I think I'll use a Q-tip and get into that thin area there. So don't forget your shadows. Yeah, a little bit more that bright orange. Just don't be afraid. Remember, it's pastels. Give it a little bit more brightness on her. All these tools you're going to be using. Alright, I think we're going to move on to her dress. This is all in shadow. Okay. Alright, so let's move on to her make this a little bit brighter. High contrast. It's like there's a little netting that goes across her face. And there is like a little netting. So just gonna put that little bit of lace on there. Okay. And this is really dark, so I need to fill that back in somehow. Try not to spend so much time on the actual face that you don't get the rest of the composition up to speed. If you're doing the rest of the composition. Alright, so we know that she has this little detail across here. And we know that she has lines across her cloak. This over here is really dark. I had to wait to get all this on here because I didn't want that to mix in with everything else. So this next layer of just the black on top, all the other colors, is now being applied. And then I have actually, I think her arm is further down here. So whenever you need to move stuff around, you can. Put my glove back on and just really make her longer. I think her hand is actually way down here. So, I have to add some of that blue back in. And the green. I know my video is getting probably a little long, so I will just kind of finish this off. And save hands for another day. She's got kind of this gold fold right down here. And I will just go ahead and finish that off. Okay, and let's just make sure this is deep enough under her chinny chin chin. got a couple of the curly hair coming down over her shoulder. This is where it helps to have a nice pointed charcoal. And I want to add a little brown to that so it's not just all, her hair's probably just a really deep dark brown. And because I like red, I'm going to add a tiny bit of red in there, if I could find my red. She needs a little more brightness over here. Putting on the finishing touches. Brighten those. Just go around and look for anything that would need to be brightened up a bit. My blender is pretty dirty at this point. I'm gonna have to find something else. Keeps her from getting too contaminated. Putting those tight strands of hair over the top of her. I had her curly ones down here. Kind of want to soften the edges of her shoulder. Before I contaminate my blender stick anymore, I just want to make sure that I have brightened up any areas that need brightening, that get muddy when you're doing faces. All right. I think if once I just kind of and a little bit of purple. A little bit of purple. Right. And now I am going to put in these lines. And I'm going to draw some fancy little doodads onto her cloak. You don't have to get very detailed, just a suggestion. All the little folds. And voila, you should have your first little pastel done of Mona, and all you need to do is sign it. And ta-da! There she is. All right, pull the tape. And after I stare at her for a day or two, maybe I will add more to her. And that's the nice thing about it, even after you put the spray fixative on, you can still work it if you need to. All right, so visit me if you need any questions or anything answered, and have fun creating. Till next time.